This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show... And welcome to Positive Talk Radio for a Wednesday afternoon. And I would like to wish everybody, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving weekend and can take all 4 days and just kind of enjoy turkey, and then turkey sandwiches and turkey and cranberry sandwiches and all of that stuff for the rest of the time and stuff. It's one of those wonderful times where family can get together and everybody can have a really good time, even if you are not, politically correct and stuff like that. I would just stay away from divisive topics today. But first, I got to talk to Eric. How's my friend Eric? How's Thanksgiving looking? Are we going to lose power?
Happy Wednesday, Kevin, and happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving Eve, I guess I should say. And it looks like it's going to be very nice for the next 3 days. A little bit chilly with highs in the upper 40s, but lows in the 30s. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be, partly cloudy, partly sunny the next several days. So it should be nice for everybody that's traveling and everybody that's staying home.
Exactly. And I hope everybody has a good time. By the way, have we had somebody show up?
No.
Well, it's all well and good, because I've got some stuff that I would like to talk about today. First of one, which is I'm a little bit older than you, young man. And so I distinctly remember Mrs. Nelson was our first grade teacher. Way back when, and the principal, Mr. Camperath, walked in and whispered in the teacher's ear. This was about, I'm guessing, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And she turned white, and Mr. Camperath left because he had more classes to inform. And she said, "Boys and girls, something terrible has happened in our country, and our president has been hurt, and I would like us to all pray for him and pray for his well-being." And so we did that. I remember distinctly doing that, and then news came. This was before it was generally known that President Kennedy had been assassinated. At that time, he was just wounded, and then they discovered that Walter Cronkite came on the air, and he said at 1:06 p.m. President Kennedy was pronounced dead. And that's a terrible impression of Walter Cronkite. But I just wanted to say, first of all, Eric, I know you guys covered it in the previous hour, and I just thought that I would just touch
because
base.
it was 60 years ago.
60 years ago today.
Yeah, that the president was assassinated.
And for those of you, and I don't know what you guys talked about in the last hour because I was doing a podcast, but for those of you that were not around, and sadly, that's most of us,
Right.
we're not here.
I wasn't around, but
yeah,
it's definitely made a huge impact on our culture. As I was saying on Voices of Experience, there's 3 new documentaries about the assassination and about Kennedy, and it's you would think after 60 years, every little detail would have been squeezed out of this story. But apparently there's still more revelations. This the newest one that I saw a promo for is what the ER doctors saw on the day. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, but if you look at the Magruder film, and if you look at the impact on his head, that wasn't very pretty. That was
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah. So it was, I like to think in terms of him as being, he was young, he had a family, he had a beautiful wife, Jackie,
Mhm.
and he really was. That was the last time, Eric, and it kind of bears some repeating today because yes, we had some times during Obama's presidency. We had sometimes um, uh, sometimes during other presidency, but that's the last time that I remember. And being a little kid, I was surprised that I would still remember these things. But he really instilled a sense of hope for all of us, for the future, going to the moon, doing all the things that we did, and I think that that it's a 60-year anniversary, and I don't think that we as a people and as media cover it nearly enough as how big of an impact that had on the future of America and everything that we've been through since then, including the late 60s and the Vietnam War and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to take a moment and just say I want to thank um, John Kennedy and his family for their service, and of course Bobby Kennedy, who was killed in '68. And it was a horrific time for us, and I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. And Eric, has Bob Gonzalez happened to wander into the room today? Hello. Apparently not, or they're in the process of getting that together. And Eric is off doing something, and so from the standpoint of what we're doing here at Positive Talk in Positive Talk Radio, in addition to everything else that we're doing. And if our guest, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to make it into the studio, what I would like to do is to highlight something that we are doing, which is we've actually done a video pilot in conjunction with anaturaldesign.com, and it is a show that we are going to be doing a grand premiere of on the 10th and on the 17th. And there's Eric. Have we had a
Yeah, I'm talking to Bob on the phone, so trying to get him hooked up with the link to join us today. So, did you want to take a commercial break real quick while we do that?
well, can we do this? Can we play the Wellness Blooms
You
promo?
bet. You bet.
And this is something that we're very, very proud of, and Eric is going to play the promo for it right now.
Terrific.
Welcome to Wellness Blooms by naturaldesign.com, where we deep dive into a product or process related to your wellness and how flowers can make it happen in your everyday life. The gifts I want to share with you are the zen feelings of a walk in a forest trail, or on a mountain with the wind blowing through the leaves on the trees, sitting in a beautiful arboretum greenhouse with a water fountain and birds.
My name is Holly Berry, and I'm the creative director at anaturaldesign.com. I'll be your sagely guide, taking you all the way from the flower, through the process, and then to the party. We'll be connecting you to nature through the language of flowers.
What will you see and learn by hanging out with us for Wellness Blooms episodes? Think Floral Fusion for spa and wellness related topics. This episode will teach you how to make your own anti-anxiety tea. And then we'll throw you a tea party decorated with flowers. To get started, we'll learn about the flowers and plants that go into your tea recipe. Let's go meet some of the experts from Bastyr University.
And then we continue with, I know this is hard to believe, but her name is actually Dr. Daisy, and she's at Bastyr University. And we've put together a anxiety tea to help regulate that. And it's all natural, and it all comes from your garden. And you can go right now to well, you can Wellness Blooms is the episode, and it is on Bloom TV network. That's what I'm trying to say. And you can go there, and you can sign up for them. They've got lots and lots of different things there. And we're also going to have a grand premiere of the episode, and you can get a hold of that and be part of that by going to Kevin at kmmedia.pro, and we'll send you the invitation to go do that. And it's all about nature. It's all about wonderful things that we can do with the plants around us. And the guest that we have today, his name is Bob Gonzalez, and we're going to talk about nature of a different sort, of a different kind, and that is what it's like to be a fisherman in the Gulf of Mexico. And he's written a book called A Flicker in the Water. And we spent the last hour talking on KM Media, or on positivetalkradio.net. And you can always go there and listen to that episode, and then listen to this episode as well. And Bob, I owe you an apology. I'd like to think that I'm just perfect as can be, but apparently I'm not, because I sent you the information, but I didn't send you the link on how to get here. And so I apologize, but welcome to the show. How are you?
I heard that.
So sometimes, you'd like to think that you're
We're
just
good.
perfect.
We're all here, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. So first of all, welcome to the show, and let's talk a little bit about your book, which is A Flicker in the Water. How did you come to write the book?
Well, I had a bunch of years of fishing, 15 years or so. Well, actually, even longer than that, if you count my really, really young days back in New Jersey. There's a few stories in there of that. But I had about 15 years fishing here in the Gulf of Mexico, and I stopped fishing for a while. I wasn't fishing as much as I had been, so I thought, you know what, let me feel like I'm still back out on the water. I have a bunch of stories here people might enjoy, maybe learn and get a few laughs from. And so I wrote the book, and I had a great time doing it. It made me feel like I was fishing all over again.
Well, and I will tell you that Mariel Hemingway, and if that name rings a bell, it should. Mariel Hemingway wrote the foreword, and there are two reasons why you should remember her. First of all, she's an actress and a movie star in her own right, and also an author and a podcaster. And she's also the granddaughter of a guy by the name of, you may have heard of him, Ernest Hemingway. He of course, everybody's heard of Ernest Hemingway. So she wrote the foreword for it, and it's the book is doing really quite well, and it's about different experiences that he had while he was in the Gulf of Mexico, catching all kinds of different fish, and the experiences that he had. The one of which was, the name of the book is named after one of the fish that we're not going to tell whether it got caught or not, but tell us the story behind that fish expedition.
Well, yeah. After traveling about 8 hours, we got to the offshore oil rigs in Louisiana, where at certain times of the year they hold a lot of tuna. And we got there, and this happened to be one of those times, man. There were tunas all over these rigs, and they do that for several reasons. Number one is the light from the platforms. The fish are attracted to the light, and they're also attracted to the protection and the warmth that the rigs provide for them. So There were a lot of fish here that day, and but it doesn't mean as soon as we got there, we didn't start getting bites right away. It took us about another 6 or 7 hours before we suddenly, all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, heard this big zzz. The line started going crazy. This big tuna started taking the line, and the battle was on, baby. And we fought that thing for several hours. We almost got spooled. Spooled meaning when you're going to run out of line and all you've got left holding is the rod in your hands. And he took almost all the line, so we attached another rod to this original one, threw that one in the water, and again, still zzz, 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 and he almost took all the line on the second one. And so finally it stopped, and I thought, okay, well, now the battle is on. Let's bring this baby in. And we fought him for about another hour. Then we could see the first rod that we had thrown in the water coming back to us, and we got that one. And then as we were reeling in this fish, all the colors and the waves and the reflection in the water made me think, and not immediately, but many years later, when I thought about writing the book, I was picturing fighting that fish, and I thought, you know what, A Flicker in the Water, and that would be a great title for a book. And that's how I came up with that title. And you got to read it to know how it turned out.
Then there's a great segue from the name of the book, and you can go to his website, which is Flicker in the Water, surprisingly enough, flickerinthewater.com, and you can find out all about him and his work. He's actually had quite an interesting life. He was a former baseball player in college. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author. He opened up his own pretzel shop that is still there to this day, doing quite well, and so he's been around doing a lot of stuff. So it's great to have you here, and the book. And I asked you in the previous hour, but I'll ask you again because they weren't there for that. And that is this a compilation of independent stories, or is all kind of tied together?
These are all independent stories, but I tie them in together, kind of like you would create a puzzle. One piece fits to the other piece, and they grow on each other, and it's one big puzzle there at the end.
Oh, that's cool. So you read one chapter, which leads you to the next chapter, and so forth and so on.
Right.
So what was your favorite? Do you have because you've been doing this a while, do you have a favorite story of that didn't make it in the book, or that you can tell on AM radio?
Well, yeah, all right, yeah. There's one story that didn't make it in the book. Maybe I'll have to write that one in the future. We were around a shrimp boat. After the shrimp boats, they shrimp at night. They put their nets in the water, and during the day, they lift them out of the water because I guess the shrimps come up at night and they're attracted to the light of the ship, and they get caught in the nets. But during the day, all the residue falls through the nets. And when we woke up the next morning, there were fish all over the place around this shrimp boat. It was like a smorgasbord of fish in the Gulf of Mexico. So it was around noon. It was really hot. It was like 90-some degrees. And we got a big bite on this thing. We thought it was a big tuna, maybe a marlin or something. So we battled this thing in the Florida sun for like 2 hours. Buckets of water were being thrown on our head to keep cool. And as it was coming in, I remember I was the chair guy. I was guiding the guy in the fighting chair, and he turns to me and he said, "It's a shark." And we were a little bit disappointed, actually, thinking it was a giant tuna, but it turned out to be a bull shark. And those bull sharks, if they're very mean, and this one was really mean. He was angry. We just probably ruined his lunch because he took 2 hours fighting us when he could have been eating some of those fish in the water.
Now, bull sharks are actually man eaters, or have been known to chomp on human beings, haven't they?
Well, yeah, they can. They're very aggressive. They're very persistent. Maybe that's why they're called bull sharks, because they're like bulls, you know. And they're one of the few sharks, if not the only shark, that can be found in freshwater. They've been known to travel up rivers 50 or 60 miles. So they're not just limited to the salt water. They can be in the freshwater too, and they can be very dangerous. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
I've actually seen bull sharks. I've actually seen bull sharks try to munch on the propellers on a boat, the propeller that's spinning in the water. The bull shark's actually trying to take a bite out of that. I've seen that happen.
And that can't end up good for the bull shark.
No, I mean, they'll lose their teeth, but the thing is, though, they'll grow them back right away. The sharks are hardy, man. Nature has made them to survive. They've been around forever, and they'll lose a tooth, but they'll grow it back in a week.
I wish I could had that capability.
I know, me too.
But I guess that's just just the way it goes. And by the way, we're talking with Bob Gonzalez. He's written the book Flicker in the Water. I highly suggest you go to that website, flickerinthewater.com, and buy the book from him. And he'll ship it to you and all that kind of good stuff. And he's got some great reviews from it, and including Mariel Hemingway. And it's if you are interested in nature, if you want to paint a picture of what it's like, if you're from the Northwest like I am, you've been here your whole life, I can't imagine taking a boat and going to where the oil rig platforms are in the Gulf of Mexico, and the water's warm, and you can go diving in it, but you don't want to because you don't know what's going to be down there that's going to eat you and stuff like that. So it's an interesting dilemma to be in a different place like that. So I admire you for doing that.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I mean, as long as you take precautions and you watch the weather reports and know what you're doing, and it'd be safe out there. It can be the best thing and the greatest experience in your life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love it. It's fun. It's very rewarding too. And it's not all about the catching the fish, like you've been saying. There's a connection to nature when you're out there. It's just you and the water and the sky above, and you feel more connected to your creator, and you feel like you're at one with nature. That's tremendous.
Now, did you ever have a time when, for whatever reason, you ended up spending the night out on the water?
Yeah, I mean, we did that by design a couple of times. So we would go and we'd spend the night out there, and usually on those overnight trips, they're usually pretty good because you're out there more, and you don't have to spend the time traveling as much. But usually, I do tell a few stories about overnight trips we had. We caught a swordfish one time on an overnight trip, 450 pounds. That was
holy man!
Yeah, that was this one bit around 2 a.m. and the swordfish steaks are great too. I love to eat swordfish. They're one of my favorite ones. Them and the wahoos. The wahoos are great too, but swordfish have a really thick skin and a real thick, strong body. They're very, very strong. The marlins, which are also a billfish, are more sleek. The swordfish are the swordfish are built like linebackers. The marlins are more safeties, but big safeties or cornerbacks. But the swordfish is like a linebacker. You wouldn't want to get hit with one of those.
So, I'm familiar with halibut versus cod.
Yeah.
The texture of the meat is quite a bit different. Is it that way with because you were saying swordfish steaks? I imagine that their meat is dense enough that it's more like eating a steak than it is like having fish and chips.
Right. It's like a steak. That's exactly right. It's very dense. You chew on it like you would a steak. Some of the other fish, like cod, I think that you mentioned, they fall apart easier. Although I like cod too. Cod is really good, but the meat falls apart a lot more than it does on a swordfish.
Yeah, it's completely different, and we don't have swordfish up here. At least as far as I know, we may. I don't get to go out on the ocean all that much.
No, they're a warm water fish.
I
think they're more in the south in the warm water. They've gone around the equator.
And some things I learned in the first hour that I did not know that maybe our audience doesn't know in general knowledge. As an example, we have a couple of pods of killer whales in Puget Sound, and a pod is like a family of them, and we've got a couple that they monitor and they watch. I didn't realize that they are all over the world in warm water and in cold water.
Yeah, they're all over the place. You can find them in any ocean. You can find them in the Pacific, the Atlantic. I mean, the Indian Ocean. They're everywhere. I think they're one of the few, if not the only mammal that is like that. They can be in cold water, hot water. They're all over.
And they don't necessarily migrate like I know gray whales and others. They'll migrate from the south to the north, following the feeding trail, and then they
Mhm.
go north to mate and that kind of thing, and then they come south and follow the trails. Do killer whales do that, or are they more territorial?
I think they're more territorial. They'll move around, but I don't think they do it to migrate. They do it because they feel like it.
And who's going to tell a killer whale, no, you
Yeah,
can't go there?
yeah,
They go anywhere they
yeah,
want to go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, the other thing that we learned in the last hour that for those of you that are a little older, and before you came on, we were talking about today is the 60th anniversary of John Kennedy's assassination, and we
Mhm.
were mentioning that and stuff. One of the things that you and I talked about in the last hour was there was a television show in the 60s and early 70s called Flipper, and Flipper
Yeah.
was a dolphin, and he was the family pet more or less and stuff. And I asked you if it's true that dolphins could protect people from sharks, and that they could actually come up and butt them on the side, and they don't like that very well, so they leave. And you verified that for me, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Dolphins, they're faster, they're more agile and smarter than sharks, and they usually are in groups. So a group of dolphins is going to outwit and outlast a shark any day. Um, Sharks are more by instinct, and I think that dolphins are more brainy, although they have instincts too. But they're sharks. Sharks are 100% or 99% instinct. Dolphins use a lot of brain power. They're very smart. They're, like I said, they're very agile. They can move around faster and quicker and get around the shark, especially in groups. And they've been known to protect people, like a surfer or somebody who's on a board. The dolphins have been known to push them away from sharks and keep the sharks away from them.
That I've always liked dolphins. I've never had the opportunity to meet one up close, but I have when we were in Hawaii, and we were in a boat that was going, I guess, about 30 or 20 miles or 30 miles an hour, and was putting up a pretty good sized wake, and they loved. We had a whole pack of dolphins that were just catching up to us and diving into the wake. And for them, it's like a Ferris wheel or something, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're very playful. They love that. The wake is just like a like you say, a Ferris wheel. It's like let's have some fun in the water. They'll jump up and they'll do spins and stuff, and then they'll come back down. Yeah, to them it's all fun.
Well, and I wonder if they know that they are entertaining people and are doing it for the entertainment value that they're giving the people. I've often wondered that. What do you think?
You know, I think they probably like to show off, and maybe they do know something's up when they see people ooh yeah and gawking at them. Maybe they say, "Oh, look here's what I can do," and they jump out of the water. Sometimes they'll even make a sound for you, like a sound that they make.
I'm willing
So
to
they're
bet
definitely having fun with you.
I'm willing to bet that since they're pretty sure, because they've never seen one without the other, that if they see a boat, that there's also going to be people on the boat. I doubt they've been had very many boats that nobody's on. So
Yeah.
I would not be a bit surprised. And then if they're looking, some people will actually even feed them as they're doing that kind of stuff. So maybe they're looking for a treat too.
I was going to say, yeah, that's probably the main thing. They're looking for a treat. Yeah. Although they do say that it's better probably not to feed them because it makes them dependent on those treats. So it makes them lose their skills to gather on their own. But but yeah, you're probably right. They're probably looking for a treat.
You know, the best intentions have got unintended consequences sometimes, and that can be one of those. It's like you feed them and they get dependent upon that food, and then you
Yeah.
go away and they aren't as adept as a hunter as they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
So
yeah.
by the way, we're talking with Bob Gonzalez. We need to take a break real quick. And when we come back from this break, we're going to talk more about Bob Gonzalez and his adventures on the water with his book, The Flicker in Water. And go to his website, theflickerinwater.com. You're, again, listening to Positive Talk Radio and don't often get to talk about fish stories much. I'm looking forward to the rest of the show. So I hope you'll stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you to our dedicated fans. We are updating our live on-air schedule to make it super easy for you to hang out with us 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, and live on Fridays with Kixie 8:80 a.m. Seattle Live. You can find our library to binge all the podcast platforms. We can't wait to see you at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, starting September 4th, Labor Day 2023.
Hello, everybody. If I could have your attention, please, I have an important announcement to make just for you. As you may know, PTR is heard and seen on radio, KKNW, and now Kixie, several websites, podcasts, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and most social media. At PTR, we believe in working together to make the world a better place, and because you're listening, we know that you're dedicated to the same. So we'd like to support your efforts by offering an outstanding multimedia package for you at a deeply discounted rate. As our partner, you'll receive commercial creation, both video and audio, at least 10 commercial plays per week, a monthly show to highlight your business and passion, exclusive website positioning with links, video shorts for social media, commercial plays on all shows, podcasts, KKNW, and Kixie. Your commercial is embedded into each episode and as a podcast is sent to over 50 different platforms. All shows are performed live and sent to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and stay there forever. Your podcast episodes are provided to you to use as you see fit. This one-time offer is only $250 a week, based on a 13-week commitment, and as our partner, we are vested in your success, and will do everything in our power to make it happen. However, there are limited spots available, so don't hesitate. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro, and let's get the ball rolling.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
Hey there, I would personally like to thank you for making Positive Talk Radio part of your day. Whether you like podcasts or the radio show, we're glad to have you along. I'd love to hear from you with thoughts about the show and ways that we can make it even better. You are the reason we do these shows, because the more people we can touch, the better we can make the planet and our time here just magnificent. Please contact me, Kevin, at kmmedia.pro with any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, and thank you for being in my dream. And welcome back to Positive Talk Radio here on KKNW 1150 AM. A couple of notes I want to give you. Number one, I want to let you know that we are going to be here on Friday, even though a lot of folks are not going to be working on Friday. We at Positive Talk always work. And as a matter of fact, we will be working tomorrow as well, because I'm just that kind of got nothing else to do. So anyway, and also if you are a sponsor that is looking for a good ROI, which is return on investment, we are a great place for you to come and hang out with, because not only do you get to be on the show that goes worldwide, you get commercials, you get all kinds of different stuff to promote your brand and to help us all grow together. And I hope you'll take advantage of that. Go to kevin@kmmedia.pro. Our guest this hour is Bob Gonzalez. He's written the book A Flicker in the Water. He is by trade a fisherman. Well, actually, I guess that's not true. By trade, he's a restaurateur, and he's got a pretzel shop. Where, by the way, where is your pretzel shop if somebody wants to come and partake?
Well, Fort Walton Beach, Florida, which is halfway between Panama City and Pensacola.
And you've been, how long have you been doing the pretzel thing?
It's going on 30 years. This June will be 30 years.
You know what that means, Bob?
I didn't think I looked that old, but
you know what it means when I don't know if anybody knows the statistics, but the statistics for restaurants survivability is 3 to 5 years. Most restaurants are come and they go, and to survive in an environment, and even through COVID and all of that, and to still be here, you should be very proud of yourself.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of hard work, and I'm glad we're still here, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, I've been in the restaurant business. I was in the restaurant business for a long time, over 20 years, and all the restaurants that I was associated with are no longer in business. And honestly, it wasn't me. It was that times change and tastes change and people change and stuff. So being able to do what you're doing for 30 years, you are godlike, I have to tell you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
And not only are you a pretzel maker of note, and you've got a shop in Fort Lauderdale, is that right?
Fort Walton.
Fort Walton.
Fort Walton Beach.
And also it's right there on the beach. And so you get to, anyway. So not only are you doing that, you're also an author. You wrote a book of poetry, and your second book, A Flicker on the Water, which has been, the foreword is by Mariel Hemingway, and who's the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, who wrote, you mentioned the book, the Old Man in the Sea. Is that the name of the book?
Yeah. The Old Man in the Sea. Yeah, it won the Nobel Prize for Ernest back in 1953.
Yeah, so for Marielle, who is also an actress of note and also an author and a podcaster and stuff, for her to write your forward, that's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I still sometimes I can't believe it, that I'm on the same book with a Hemingway. Old Man in the Sea and Hemingway is close to us because my dad grew up in Cuba, where Old Man in the Sea was written. Most people think it might have been written in Key West or somewhere else, but actually when Ernest was living in Havana, it was when he wrote The Old Man in the Sea in the early 50s. And Mariel actually took her name from the port where her Ernest and his son, her father, used to fish from, called Mariel. So that's where she got her first name, was in Cuba, from the port of Mariel. So, yeah, my dad was a kid down in Santiago, which is on the other end of the island, but actually is the name of the character in the book, the old man fisherman. His name is Santiago. So when I wrote the book, I thought, let me contact Mariel and see what she thinks of it and see if she might like it. And luckily she did. She said it spoke to her with a great deal of appreciation, and that meant a lot to me.
You know, it's interesting because he was in Cuba before Cuba was taken over by Castro and the communists and so forth. Did he spend time after the revolution, or was he able to get out before?
I think he got out, and he never went back. And I think he loved it there. And I think that kind of led to a downward spiral for him. I don't think he was ever happy not being in Cuba. I think that was the place where he really wanted to be.
It's unfortunate that happened. And, we're looking at it now. It's like 70 years later. And I keep hoping that, that Cuba will have a change of heart, and that they will go back to being the way they were, because at one time it was a great big tourist destination for folks all along, up and down the East Coast. And and it was they had casinos there, and it was a great deal of fun from what I've heard.
Yeah, it was a happening place, that's for sure. They had one of the most thriving economies in this hemisphere. After the U.S., Cuba was on par with any country, and they had tourism. They had casinos, like you say, nightclubs. Desi Arnaz came from Cuba. From I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
they gave us some TV shows. So yeah, they were thriving. And then I've been waiting for that change too, man, for 70 years. And it still hasn't happened.
Well, if you go there today, unfortunately, you'll still see cars that were being driven back then that they
Yeah.
had to keep up because of the embargoes and those sorts of things. So I really hope that they will their leadership or the people will decide that that's not working for them and they want to join the 21st century.
Eventually, you would think so. Yeah.
So, but congratulations. And now your dad, where did he settle? Did he end up settling up in Pennsylvania with you?
He came to school in Virginia, and then he met my mom in New York City. And then when I was born in New York, and then we lived in New Jersey for a short time, and then we moved to Pennsylvania when I was about 9 years old, and I stayed here. And I stayed in Pennsylvania till my early 20s, and then I came to Florida.
And I know that you've been a fisherman all your life, and your family did it up in Pennsylvania, and you'd go to the ocean and that sort of thing. And what was it about fishing? Was it the entire thing? Because I was able to go to a charter fishing boat with a bunch of guys, and we went out onto the ocean. And I have to tell you, the water was calm. There were whales off in the distance. There were birds. There was the air smelled great. It really is. I invite everybody, whether you go fishing out there or not, just take some time and rent a boat to go into the ocean. It really is a unique experience. It gives you a sense of how small and insignificant we are when there's something that is so vast. And I wanted to ask you, I mentioned, had you done any overnight fishing in the Gulf? And you said yes. What are the skies like when there is no light except for the stars? That must be just sensational to look at.
It is. It's a thrill. I mean, you're so connected to nature, and you feel like, I don't know, you feel like heaven is only like a little short way away. It's just incredible. You just feel so at one with nature. And that's if you're not fishing. Now, what the fishing provides for me is an incredible adrenaline rush. when I see that rod bend, I mean, that's amazing. But as far as the nature part of it goes, there's nothing like it. There's a feeling that you get at sea, like you were saying, that you just can't get on land. You feel so insignificant, and when you're in something so vast, it's just amazing.
It really does give you a sense of scale as to who we are and how insignificant the individual one of us is. And even though as collective as humanity, we are pretty immense. And I would love for humanity to work together and to be a lot closer to one another than we are today. And I know you live in Florida, and there's some unique things going on in Florida these days, which I don't necessarily really want to get into, but it's interesting that. But now you're in the Panhandle, is that right?
I'm in the Panhandle. Yeah, that's along the northern Gulf Coast.
And it is a little bit different there. You're closer to Tennessee and those places. Is that true?
Yeah, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, they're all only like an hour away. Well, not Tennessee, but Alabama and Louisiana and Georgia are only like an hour and a half away.
Did you get out much into that area? I haven't been. I traveled for a living, and I went to Louisiana quite a little bit. Never got to Florida. Never got to Tennessee, but not Alabama. What's it like? And is the weather as humid and as hot there as we've been told?
South Florida is definitely a lot hotter than anywhere else that you can go. The humidity in South Florida is just different than it is even in the southern states like Georgia or Tennessee or Alabama. I think because of the Everglades, maybe all that swampland and all the forests and stuff, it leads to that humidity that you don't get anywhere else. In the wintertime, especially, there's a big difference between northern Florida, where I am, and southern Florida. Sometimes the difference could be 20 degrees.
Oh wow. Oh wow. And
Yeah.
the nice thing about where you are is in order for you to find alligators and snakes and stuff like that, you have to travel a little bit to go south, don't you?
Well, you have them here, not as much. They're more in the south. But they're in the south. They're all over the place. That they're everywhere, and they're in the canals, in the ponds, the golf courses. Little. If you're ever on a golf course, and you shank one in the water, don't go in and get your ball.
Interesting story. I was in Louisiana, and I had to stay the weekend because I was going to have a meeting with a chicken guy on Monday, and so I stayed there over the weekend. And so I played golf, and the golf course that we played was cut out of a kind of a jungle. This is the best way for me to describe it. It probably isn't how they would do it, but for me it was like cut out of a jungle, and so you had a lot of vegetation along each fairway, and you had swampland, and you had all this kind of stuff. And so I shanked one. I was playing with a couple of guys from Louisiana, some regular folks, and I shanked one into the woods. Now in Seattle, if you shank one into the woods, you can go find your ball and you don't have to worry about anything. And so I was taking my little cart and I was headed towards this great big jungle, if you will. It was off where my ball had landed. And I was intent upon going to look for my ball. And one of the guys said to me, he said, if I was you, I wouldn't go in there. There's stuff that's
Yeah.
going to eat you if you go in there.
Yeah.
And so I pulled another ball out of my bag and forgot about that one.
Yeah, for sure. Lose the swing, lose the stroke. It's worth it.
Yeah, because you can lose your leg if you're not careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the interesting thing is you won't know it until it's right upon you.
Yeah, that's right. You can't see them a lot of times. Just their little eyes stick out of the water. That's it.
Yeah. So consequently, that's why I live in Washington State, because we don't have any of that here. But it works for you because you're right there on the Gulf of Mexico, and you're not fishing as much as you did earlier in life. Is that true?
No, I was fishing more before. The regulations on the fishing and the prices of fuel and things they don't make it that cost effective like they used to. So I'm not fishing as much as I used to. Although I did go out a couple times, like last week. I was telling you before, the one day was flat calm, and you could have had a picnic out there, or it felt like you were by the pool. The next time I went, I felt like I was a piece of change in the washing machine, man. The way I was getting tossed around, it was unbelievable. But we caught a lot of fish that day, so in the end, it was worth it.
Now, do you ever get seasick?
I've been seasick. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It happens to the best of us. It never stopped me though. It's actually sometimes when you're seasick, you have your best days of fishing, and while you're fishing and you're focused on the fish, you forget about the seasickness.
It was funny. One time I was on another charter boat. I was with my ex-wife, and we were on the railing looking out, and it was kind of choppy and stuff, and the deckhand, there always is a deckhand to help you bait your hook and to do all of that. He came up to her, standing right next to her with one of those Hostess pies. He had a Hostess lemon pie that he was starting to eat. And the next thing I knew, my wife was down throwing up in the galley.
Oh wow.
And stuff. And so she got seasick, and the deckhand was like, what? But it was like, these are amateurs. You got to understand that we have tender tummies when we go out there, and you
Yeah.
never know when you're going to get sick. So it was really
Yeah, I've been sick. A lot of people that stopped them from going back out, but
another real quick funny story was that when I was a kid, my dad liked to take us charter fishing. And the way it works when you charter fish is you go down, spend the night before in a hotel at Westport, and then you get up at like 4:00 in the morning, and you go down, have a quick breakfast of like cereal, something that's going to be good for your stomach and stuff, and then you go to the boat, and they do all the stuff that they do, and then you go out into the water, and you spend like 6 or 8 hours there. Well, there was a group of 3 men, and you'll appreciate this. There was a group of 3 men who had been drinking the night before, and then they decided that to bring a fifth of bourbon onto the boat, and were drinking as we were going out through the calm waters of the jetty and that kind of stuff before we got to the ocean. And so they were drinking at like 8:00 in the morning. They spent the complete entire adventure on a bunk in the galley, underneath the galley, because they were so sick. So the rule of thumb here is, if you're going to go out into the water, don't drink. That's not good for you. Do you agree with that?
yeah.
You, Captain, you've been breaking up. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but drinking is definitely.
Go ahead. I think your feed is better. Go ahead.
Me?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Uh-oh.
Yeah, yeah. The drinking is definitely when you're out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bob, but we're breaking up a little bit, so we'll see if we can recover that. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you that we've been talking with Bob Gonzalez. He's written the book, Flicker in the Water. Go to flickerinthewater.com. It's the foreword is by Mariel Hemingway. It's a great book. It's in the vein of Man in the Sea that Ernest Hemingway did in the 50s. I've really appreciated talking to you. This has been fun for me, and I hope you've had a good time, Bob. Let's see if you're doing better now. Is your feet a little bit better now?
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Let me go on here real quick so we can say bye. Hold on, I'll try to get out from my phone. That one usually.
If you get on the phone, you may not be able to. Okay.
Yeah, how's that?
Hey, it's magic.
Yeah.
You're all better.
Yeah, okay. I can hear you great now.
It's magic.
Okay. Well, go ahead and turn that other feed off, because you're getting feedback from the other one.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it off here. But, okay, let me do that.
This is live radio, ladies and gentlemen, and so occasionally we get to have these little episodes where the technology doesn't work as well as we'd hoped it would. So he's working on that, but that's okay, Bob, because we were going to run out of time anyway. But can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted you to be able to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know. We got about a minute left.
Okay. Well, I want everybody to have a happy Thanksgiving and a happy Christmas coming up. I think if you get a flicker in the water, you'll enjoy being out on the Gulf of Mexico and knowing what it's like to be out there. And I think whether you're a sea person or not a sea person, it's a book you can enjoy, and it's good for any age too. Kids can really enjoy it and learn a lot from it.
So it's a book for all ages, and it's something that everybody should buy and go to, again, flickerinthewater.com, and buy it from Bob. He deserves to make a little bit of money from it. And so I appreciate Bob, I appreciate you being here. And by the way, everybody, two things I want to make sure everybody does. One is have a awesome Thanksgiving weekend. And two, please be safe. Drive the speed limit. You'll get there. Don't worry, even if you're a little late to grandma's house, you'll get there. So just take care of yourself, take care of your family, have a great family time. Enjoy it, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald. We'll be back on Friday at noon and then at 3. I hope that you'll join us then if you got nothing else to do. And by the way, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. We'll see you then.